This is the making of the custom Dragonfly. This piece was commissioned by Wanda Tinker off of my TikTok page. She was always liking, always commenting on my roses, my sunflowers, but not in love with them. So she reached out to me, provided me with these images, and after a little bit, I came up with this sketch and then this wing pattern. So I hope you like the process that I went through to make this. We are starting off with cutting the railroad spikes down, either cutting off the ends or cutting off the heads to get the middle sections. And I will also warn you that this video was shot over the period of a year, so you will see me go through a rapid change as I was going through a horrible time and I went through a divorce. So you will see me very big in the beginning and then very skinny at the end. Now I'm just going over my silver streak mark with a yellow paint marker, just because silver streak tends to come off a little bit easier than the paint marker does, so that way as I'm cutting out, it doesn't get lost. Okay, so what I've done here is I've gone ahead and cleaned each one of these up, got all the mill scale off of them, and then I also put a really aggressive bevel on each one of these connections, and I'm gonna be welding these up. And I want to have it so it's solid, but I also want to make it look like it's one solid piece, like you can't tell it was welded. So because when you weld, things are going to start to pull as you put the heat in there. So I made this little jig that I'm going to come in here and squeeze this tight, so that way it's side to side pretty straight. Now I'm not so much worried about it raising up that way as much, because dragonflies do have that bend to their bodies, so I'm not really worried about that right now. Unless it gets too aggressive, then I'll have to do something to kind of counteract that, but this is where we're at right now. Now we are forming out the wings, and to do this I use my horseshoe scraps. So from every other project that I've done in the past, these are the little pieces that were left behind. So here I took two pieces that were very similar or identical to each other in shape, length, and curve, and then I cut them out, made a mirror image. So my two bottom wings are going to be mirror images of each other, as well as my two top wings, they'll mirror each other as well. And as you can see right here, I'm going through and I started numbering them, so that way I didn't lose track of their order. And in the long run, this actually benefited me even better, because shortly after I finished this bottom wing is when I served my ex with divorce papers, and I left my property and I eventually moved into a rental property. So until I could get this project, which is roughly a month and a half later, it just sat there. And so when I transferred everything to my rental property, it was very easy to pick this project back up. And here are the two bottom wings completely cut out. And as you can see, I have the body of the dragonfly completely welded up and ground down flush, so you can hardly tell that it was four separate pieces. We ended up doubling the length of the body from our original sketch because the horseshoe pattern on the outside border was taking over all of the details, and we didn't want to lose that, so that's why we lengthened it. So after that month and a half of waiting, I finally got my stuff back, got moved into my rental, and we are back in action. So first I took just little tiny tacks just to put it up together, and there you see I broke it. And I was cleaning it up with my wire wheel, getting all the gunk and debris and dirt and poop or whatever was in there, so that I could fully have good clean welds all the way around. And there was a little sharp spot right there, so I ground it down so that way it wasn't poking out. So this is our bottom wing right here that we finished. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to be making the exact same pattern, or as close as to the exact same pattern as possible. So what I did was I took my other side, flipped it over, and then just copied where it met up. So as you can see, it lines up perfectly right there. Remove it. And I just went ahead and cut all the bars and put them in first. And now I'm starting to put the different size punch plates in. So it's going to be an exact replica of both sides. Same pattern, same punch plate. So at first I was so confused on how I was going to create the head effect and especially the eyes effect on the Dragonfly. So because I did not want to mess up my main piece that I did, I created this test piece and to kind of gauge my theory on how well this would work. So once I was happy with how that was starting to look and I knew I could change it up as I went even more to make it better, I went ahead and started welding it up as you see me doing right here, creating those two big bulges for the eyes. Here is that first side completely cleaned up and looking exactly the way I want. So next we're going to move to the second side. And this is that second side completely cleaned up. So next we are going to be moving on to putting on the little dots everywhere. So from my practice test to this one, I forgot what settings I had to form the little balls on top. So I had to play around to get it back to those same settings. And right about here, after I do this cleaning, is where I'm like, yep, here we go. We got this. Let's go to town. And here it is completely finished, and I think it turned out pretty amazing. Simply for the fact that I had no idea how I was going to do this, how I was going to create this effect to begin with, and being a certified welder, talking about code and making solid welds every single time to turning around and making art is two completely different aspects of welding. This is where I realized I made a big mistake. I welded these wings on way too low on the body, and I need to cut them off and weld them a little bit higher. So we're gonna re-weld them on now. So what I've done here is I've mapped out my wing, and then I've gone ahead and put S and L, meaning large and small for punch plate. So this way, as I'm taking it out and moving it around, I don't lose track of my pattern. And then I'm gonna also repeat it on the same, just like these, that are gonna be mirror images of each other. Here I'm giving you a different angle of a time lapse of me creating the top wings. So this is the Beverly shear that I use to cut, and then I'm using my grinder to do the last little finishing touches on each of the little punch plates, and then I weld it into place. pieces were welded up, I sat down here and I laid out the wings to where I want them space-wise between the top and bottom, and I'm just putting a little mark right here so that when I tip them up on its side to go to weld it on, I do not lose that spacing. The last step that we have to do is create the piece that's going to allow it to be displayed. So this is a fisheye hook, a stainless steel one, that I cut off the majority of the screws and a little bit of the circle part. And here I'm squeezing that circle part in on my vise just to make it a little bit more narrow. And so I'm going to weld where I made the cut on the circle to make it one piece so it does not open back up. And then I'm also going to weld it to the Dragonfly at the right angle. And here it is, finally finished. So in the next clip, I'm going to be putting it on a scale. So I want to issue you guys a little bit of a challenge. In the comments section, put in how much you think this thing weighs. 9 pounds, 6.2 ounces. I don't know how close you guys were on your guess, but I was at least 3 pounds off in mine, and I was working with this thing every single day. So I have to give another shout out to Wanda and much thanks. That lady is an angel. She showed me so much grace and support going through my divorce, and not once did she complain about where's my project at, how much longer is it going to be, anything like that. So this lady is a dream client.